Hey guys, it's Robin. You see, I'm looking at my phone because I want to make sure that my ringer is off. Hey y'all, it's life coach and licensed therapist Robin May, and I'm excited to do another Facebook Live today. Today we are talking about the 8 must-haves. The 8 must-haves for a forever after I do. You know, as I start this Facebook Live, I want to say this. Almost every single day, this is unfortunate, but almost every single day, somebody that I care about is reaching out to me to let me know of a challenge that they are facing in their marriage, almost every day. And these are people who I really love dearly, who I support, who I sincerely care about. And so I have no problem with them reaching out to me. As a matter of fact, I'd have a problem if they didn't. But all that does is remind me that marriage is no joke. Marriage requires something. It requires a willingness to stick and stay. It requires a willingness to persevere. And I don't like to paint marriage as a chain gang, like it's just so difficult, because who wants to sign up for that? But we know that marriage is no joke. And as I was preparing for today's Facebook Live, I think about what I want to share with you all. And as I was preparing today, this idea of what does it take? What are the must-have ingredients? What are the must-have principles? What are the must-have commitments that are required for forever after? And as I was thinking about it, I started scrolling through some of the sessions that I have done before, and I've covered a lot just in 2018 alone, but I've been doing this for a minute, and I've covered a lot. And I can imagine that if you're listening to me and you're listening to someone else and you're listening to this person and this person, it can become really, really convoluted. But I want you to know that if you can pay attention, if you can gain some of the principles, and as you listen to what I'm sharing today, I'm going to share the 8 must-haves, for forever after. Listen prayerfully and ask God to show you which of these really are an area that he wants to work on you. Maybe it's not all 8 for you right now, but which of these 8 that I'm going to share with you, what is God speaking to you today? Because I believe that if we can learn the principles of marriage, if we can begin to do the work to really understand what God is saying and doing in our marriage, we can experience forever after, okay? Now, before I dive in, I want you to share this video. Tell your family and friends that this is must-watch Facebook. Even if you're catching this Facebook Live after it is over and you're catching the replay, go ahead, hit share right now and tell your friends and family to tune in, because this is must-watch Facebook. Also, you know I got to invite you to our gathering on April 14th. We are gathering together right here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am going to help you and your spouse build your marriage as a winning team. Listen, I am recording this in an area of my home, and if it wasn't such a mess around me, I would show you right on the wall of the couples who have already invested in this couples event on April 14th. I have their names listed right over there, and my husband and I are praying over you. We are calling your name out loud because we believe God is going to do something supernatural in your marriage. So make sure you get on that list. Make sure you get on that list that's right over there on the wall so that we can be covering and praying for you, okay? So I have my notes here, and I want to share with you these 8 must-haves. But in order to register for the event, go to IBelieveInMarriage.com/winning team. IBelieveInMarriage.com/winning team. Okay, so I want to share with you the 8 things I believe every couple needs to have in their marriage, the 8 must-haves. And as I dive into these, I want you to ask me any questions. Even if the Facebook Live is over, I will still check in periodically to answer your questions, okay? All right, so here's the first one. The first must-have, these are ingredients, these are principles, these are ideas, these are mindsets. Here are the 8 must-have principles or mindsets for your marriage. Here's the first one. And those of you who have been with me for a while, you probably already know which one I'm going to say. And let's just go ahead and say this. This is with the assumption that we all understand that God is right there in the midst. Is you, your spouse, and Jesus, okay? So we don't even have to say that. Is you, your spouse, and Jesus. So God, a relationship with the Lord, that is not in the 8, okay? Because we just know that just like you can't have a marriage without 2 people, I believe you can't have a godly marriage without God. All right. All right. So the first one, if you've been with me for a while, you know I'm going to say, you can probably say it with me. In order to experience forever after, you got to have self-awareness. Let me tell you. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you, and I mean this with everything in me. It is very difficult to be with someone who does not know their stuff. Have you ever been in a relationship? Let's just take it off of your marriage for a minute. Have you ever been in a friendship with someone? Have you ever had a coworker? Have you ever had a boss? Have you ever had somebody that you serve with in church and they can always see what everybody else is doing, but they can't see their stuff? They don't know that it's their attitude that's making things difficult. They don't know that it's their perfectionism that's putting strain. They don't know that it's their tit for tatness that is causing problems. It's a challenge to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't know their stuff. So when it comes to marriage, it is very difficult to be in a healthy marriage with someone who isn't able to see how they contribute to the problems in the relationship. This is the person who always says it's because of what their spouse is doing. When their spouse even apologizes, they say, yeah, you, because it was you. They don't know their stuff. They don't own up to their stuff. They're always projecting the problem onto someone else. And listen, as you're listening to this, you may be thinking, well, that's not me, but I want you just to pause and make sure that it's not. I want you to pause and make sure that you are not the person in the relationship who is always projecting the issue on somebody else. Do you think the challenges in your marriage is because your spouse is just not talking? Do you think the challenges are in your marriage because your spouse is not being intimate? Do you think the challenges are in your marriage because your spouse's mama is always in the business? Do you think the challenges are in your marriage because your spouse works too much? If you can only point out your spouse's stuff, that may be an indicator that you don't know your stuff. So number one, I'm giving you 8 must-haves, and number one is self-awareness. You got to be able to look in the mirror. Let me tell you another part to that. Let me give you another caveat to that. We all have blind spots in our lives. I laugh because recently a group of my girlfriends and I were talking, and they said, because you know, Robin, you're bossy. And I said, no, I'm not. I am not bossy. And they all started laughing. And if I'm talking to 7 of my girlfriends and all 7 of them start laughing when I say I'm not bossy, that might be a blind spot. I might not even be aware that that's how I'm coming across. And so you may not even be aware of how you are contributing to the chaos in your marriage. So I just want you to take a moment and consider if there is a blind spot that you are not seeing about you, because we all of us have a blind spot in our character. So number one is self-awareness. You gotta know your stuff. So that leads me right on to number 2, because I taught the idea of knowing your stuff, being self-aware for a long time, but I taught it incomplete. But I want to share with you the other half of that. Because not only do you have to know your stuff, you gotta be willing to do something about it. So that takes us to the second must-have in a healthy relationship, or in a relationship that's going to last forever. The second must-have for forever after. Here it is. There must be a commitment to growth. Listen, the idea, if you ever say things like this, I'm going to give you the phrase, and if you ever say things like this, don't worry, I can't even see you. Nobody even has to know it's you. You don't even have to own up to it in this very, very moment. You can think about it later on. But if you've ever said this statement, this one might be for you. If you've ever said, well, you know what, that's just me. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. I am years old. And so if you don't like that, you must not understand, because that's just who I am. If you've ever said that, listen, don't get mad. Don't get mad, because nobody even knows that's you. You get a chance to correct it. There must be a commitment to growth. If you're going to experience forever after, you got to know your stuff. And then number 2, there must be a commitment to growth. So remember, I said I've taught the importance of knowing your stuff, but I taught it for a long time incomplete. But the other half of that is that you must be willing to do something about it. So again, the example I often use is that I often can have a sarcastic mouth. You know, I can be a bit sarcastic. My tongue can be a little sharp. But if I say things to my husband like, well, that's how I am. I mean, I'm 43 years old. You think I'm going to change now? This is what you got. Deal with it. Well, if it's causing a problem in the relationship, if it's starting to frustrate him, if it's a bit annoying, I must have a commitment to growth. There is nothing sexy about somebody who wants to stay the same. We shouldn't want to stay the exact same. We should want to expand. We should want to grow. We should want to evolve. So if you want to experience forever after, if you and your spouse got married 10 years ago, you are not the same girl you were 10 years ago. He shouldn't be the same guy he was 10 years ago. Yes, some of the coreness of who we are might be the same, but we should be open and evolving and changing and growing. What is it? Is it on Channel 6, or is it on the Today Show, or is it a commercial when they say the more you know? The more you know is the more you should grow. So number one, there must be a willingness to be self-aware. And number two, there must be a willingness to grow. It is nothing cute about holding on to who you've always been. Okay, so if you're just logging on, welcome. I'm so glad you are here. I am sharing with you the must-have, the 8. I'm giving you 8 must-haves for forever after. And y'all, if you listen to any expert on the topic of marriage, they're going to give you all kind of things. And what I'm encouraging you to do today, I will never imply that I have all the answers, but I've done this for a long time. And these 8 things I'm sharing with you, I am telling you, if you can just start with these 8, you got a long, you're ahead of the game, okay? But as you're listening to this, ask the Holy Spirit to highlight for you which one of these stands out. Which one, God, are you wanting me to work on? So the first one is a willingness to be self-aware. Second is a commitment to growth. Here's number 3. And I want to say this is my favorite one, but all of these, when I'm working with couples, I just want to this is what I might do. Those of you who see me in couples counseling, next time you come in, you're going to see these on the wall. I'm going to go ahead and put these on the wall because this is how serious it is for me. Here's number 3, reasonableness. If you and your spouse are going to experience forever after, there must be the principle of reasonableness. You got to be reasonable. Let me tell you what I mean by that. When you know you are being unfair, when you know you're not shooting straight, when you know you're coming up with excuses, when you know you're not holding up to your end of the bargain, you have to be willing to be reasonable. It is hard to have a serious conversation with someone who's not going to even be fair in the conversation. If you know that we agreed that we were going to, I'm trying to come up with an example. If we agreed, you know, we sat down and we talked about it and we agreed that we were going to say $500 this month. And then the next thing you know, you have gone and you've taken that $500 and you've gone on a shopping spree. And so when we come back and we talk about it again, you pretend you didn't even know what we were talking about. You pretend you didn't even know that that was an agreement. That's not even being reasonable. That's not being fair. So I want you in your marriage to be reasonable. Look at both sides of the coin. Consider how your spouse might be feeling. Consider how this might be making them frustrated. I want you to be reasonable in your marriage. Okay. So I have this pollen, y'all. This pollen is killing me. So excuse me. I hate I had to do that, but the pollen is killing me. All right, so we are going over the 8 must-haves. 8 must-haves in a forever I do relationship. So I told you, you got to be self-aware. There has to be a commitment to growth. Number 3 is reasonableness, and number 4 is accountability. Let me give it to you straight. If you are not willing or ready to be accountable, you are not ready to be married. If you're not ready and willing to be held accountable, you are not ready and willing to be married. Accountability is inherent in marriage. And often people struggle with that because it feels like accountability can feel like control, and none of us want to be controlled. If you ask my husband, the idea of me feeling controlled, something rises up in me. The moment I think, it don't even have to be him. The moment I think anybody is trying to control me or restrict me, something rises up in me. I cannot take it. But the reality is, accountability is not about control. If we are building a godly marriage, what we are saying is that the two become one. That means the way you think, the way you operate, the decisions that you make, the job you take, the job you quit, the number of children we're going to have, what you invest in, all of that is going to affect me, and all of what I do is going to affect you. So we have to be held accountable. That's inherent in marriage if we are building a godly marriage, because the two become one. And the Bible tells us that there is wisdom in a multitude of counsel. So what I would encourage you is not only to be accountable to your spouse, but for you and your spouse to be accountable to someone. There is wisdom in a multitude of counsel. So not only for you and your spouse to be accountable to one another, but for you and your spouse to be accountable to someone. All right. So we are going over the eight must-haves in if you're going to experience forever after. So I share with you the first 4. Here is number 5. Am I being a bit dramatic when I do this? Let me look you in the eye. Number 5 is a willingness to prioritize the relationship. If you and your spouse are going to experience forever after, how can you do that if your marriage lives on the back burner of your life? Can I ask you that again? If you and your spouse are going to experience a happy forever after, because let me just put a pause here and say this. Couples can be married 50 years and it'd be 50 years of being miserable. So the years don't automatically mean a healthy marriage. And when I'm talking about forever after, I mean happily married. I mean that you are excited about being with one another. So how will you experience that? How will you experience a happy forever after if your marriage lives on the back burner of your life? I want you and your spouse to prioritize the marriage. And how y'all hear that text has come out? How y'all prioritize the marriage may be different from how my husband and I prioritize the marriage. But the two of you need to sit down and talk about, honey, what makes you feel prioritized? What makes you feel honored? I'm getting ahead of myself. What makes you feel that you are on my at the top of my list? The two of you need to talk about it, because you will not experience forever after if you don't prioritize one another. All right, y'all, we're getting through these quick. Do y'all have any questions for me? I'm going to pause for a minute. Hey, Reverend Lorraine, you know you are my girl. I'm so happy you're on here. We are committed together to helping couples experience the marriage that they want. Desiree, I see you. Jacqueline, I see you. Montreal, I see you. I'm so glad. Amit, am I pronouncing that right? I see you. So I'm so glad you guys are on. So let's keep diving into this. I've gone over the first 5. And when we talk about prioritizing the relationship, I want you to ask yourself, how do you want the story to be told? I said this to one of my clients recently. I'm going to say it to you guys today. Imagine that you are standing at the altar 10 years after you said I do, and you're renewing your vows. And now you're going to add some things into your vows that are really taking place in your marriage now to see if your spouse is going to agree with it. So you're standing there and the preacher is there and you're reading your vows and you're going to say, I promise to love, to cherish, and I promise to not prioritize you, and I promise to make sure that the kids get way more attention than you, and I promise that I'm going to put my job ahead of you, and I promise that I'm going to sleep in one room and you're going to sleep in the other room, and I promise you we are not going to have sex. Will you say I do? That's how I want you to think about how you want your story to be told. That's what I want you to think about. Imagine that you're saying your vows again today. Is what's happening in your marriage. Would you want to commit to that forever? So let's go over what I've shared with you so far. So number 1, we've talked about self-awareness, a commitment to growth, reasonableness, accountability, a willingness to prioritize one another. And here is number 6. The capability of forgiving an offense. You know, I'm often surprised how blatant unforgiveness is in marriage. I'm often surprised with how blatant unforgiveness is in marriage. And what's amazing is the husband is holding on to this offense that the wife has done, but that same husband is saying, she's not going to ever let me get over what happened 10 years ago. But you're still holding on to an offense. And it's not just the fellas, the wives do it too. They're holding on to an offense, but then they're frustrated because their spouse is doing the same thing. If you're going to get on the other side of forever after, and I mean happily married, you got to be willing to forgive offenses. We often hear that love doesn't hurt, and that's often centered around domestic abuse. And I want to totally agree with that. Love does not equal getting hit. Okay? Love does not equal being emotionally, sexually, or physically abused. But the idea that there won't be any pain in love is unrealistic. Let me tell you, nobody can hurt me as easy as Lee May can, because I'm not invested with anyone the way I am invested with Lee May. So he can say things that hurt my feelings. I can say things that frustrate him. But if I just keep a record, the Bible says love keeps no record of wrongdoing. And that's a hard one for me, because I feel like, how is he going to know what he's done if I don't pull out my phone and say, on June 1st, 2015. But the Bible says love keeps no record of wrongdoing. So we got to be able to forgive an offense. So what are we talking about today? I'm sharing with you the 8 must-haves for forever after. And I am telling you that you can listen to any marriage expert. Pastor Lorraine is on here, and she teaches such powerful information about her and her husband are powerful marriage coaches and counselors, and I refer many, many people to them. But she could get on here right now and she could give us 8 things that she sees are priority. And Gary Chapman, which is somebody I just really admire, he could get on, he could give his 8 things. My pastor from Dallas, Tony Evans, he could get on and say, here are the 8 things couples must know. Even my own husband, Pastor Lee May, could come over here and say, these are the things that a couple must know. And it might be all totally different things. And it may cause your mind to swim like, why or who am I supposed to listen to? Your spouse might be saying, see, that's why I don't listen to people, because nobody can tell me what I need to do in my marriage. But this is what I want to advise against. I want you to not dismiss all the wisdom. I just want you to be prayerful about what God is saying to you in this moment. What is God asking of you in this moment? So as I give you these 8, which one of these 8 is he asking for you to pay attention to? Which one is kind of stirring in your heart? Which one are you saying, ugh, Robin, that one kind of hit me? So I'm going to give you the ones I've given so far. Number 1, you got to be self-aware, a commitment to growth, reasonableness, accountability, a willingness to prioritize the relationship, capable of forgiving an offense. Okay, so far, which one of those stood out for you? Which one of those stood out for you? Yes, Lorraine, thank you. You said this season, these are the 8 we need to hear today. Absolutely. So as I got 2 more to share with you, 2 more must-haves if you are going to experience forever after. If you are just joining, share this on your page. Tell your family and friends, this is must-watch Facebook. These 8 principles, I can tell you this, they won't hurt your marriage. If you can invest in these 8 principles, if you can pay attention to these 8 principles, it's not going to hurt your marriage. It's going to help it. So here is number 7. A willingness to honor and respect your spouse. To honor and respect your spouse. You know what, guys? There are certain things that, or certain ways that Lee and I kid with one another, certain ways that we laugh, certain ways that we play with one another that we would never do in public. There's certain things I can say to Lee that I would never say in public. You want to know why? Because those in public don't know our humor. They don't know our way of functioning with one another. So I could say the same thing to him in the privacy of our home, but then I could say it in public and people will be looking like, what? That's rude. It's very important to me that I show him honor and respect. I want others to know I don't play when it comes to Lee May. And that doesn't mean that I always feel like he deserves my respect. I don't always feel like he deserves my respect, but I believe that is my requirement, my call to honor and respect him. Because listen, he doesn't always feel like I deserve his love, but I would feel so hurt if he withdrew his love because he didn't think I deserved it. So it's so important that we honor and respect our spouse. So there are certain things that I'm not going to do. I have very, very close male friends, but there are certain things and certain ways I'm not going to interact with my male friends, even though Lee is completely cool with them, because I always want to honor and respect him. So if you are going to make it to forever after, you got to honor and respect your spouse. And there are certain things that you just simply should not do, simply because it would be disrespectful and show a lack of honor. Let me say this to you, and this might sting. So don't leave me, but this might sting. But listen to this. Others will think of your spouse in the way you speak of your spouse. Others will think of your spouse in the way you speak of your spouse. If you're always dogging your spouse, minimizing your spouse, pointing out their flaws, pointing out what they don't have right, pointing out what they do wrong, that's how others are going to speak of him and think of him. That's how others are going to think of her and speak of her. You set the tone. You set the tone for how others see your spouse. My husband walks around with a little swag. He walks around with a little swag. And my friends tell him all the time, your wife got you thinking you all that. Yep. Absolutely. I sure do. I want him to know you the man. Yes, Lee May. Yes. Do it, Lee May. Do it. I am the president of his fan club. I'm his #1 cheerleader. So if that has him walking around with a little something, go ahead then, boy. You got it like that. I want you to honor and respect your spouse. All right, guys, we've gone through 7. We only have 1 more. These are must-haves. These are must-haves if you're going to get to the other side of forever after happily. Remember, you can be married 50 years and be miserable. We're not talking about just numbers. We're talking about a quality of life. And this is probably my favorite one. Simply, number 8 is friendship. You got to be friends with your spouse. I was working with a couple just last night, and they are in a, was it last night? Yeah, it was just last night, and they're in a kind of a tough place. And this was my assignment to them. I said, I don't want you talking about anything difficult. I don't want you focusing on any of the challenges. I want y'all just to go have fun. I want y'all to find something where you can just have fun with one another. Wife, monitor your mouth. Husband, chill out. Just have fun. I said, my husband and I are corny. We like to play dominoes, or we like to play Yahtzee. Don't talk about us. Go play some dominoes. Go bowling. Go running. Just go have fun. Invest in your friendship. Invest in your friendship, because there's certain things you won't say or do with your friends. You're just going to have your friends back. You're loyal to your friends. You look out for your friends. You want the best for your friends. And many times in our marriages, we forget to build the friendship. So that's number 8. Simply go build your friendship. All right. Do y'all have any questions for me? Desiree, I see you said self-awareness is the one that's kind of hitting you. Yes, that's, if I can tell you, people ask me all the time, what's the #1 key in a healthy relationship? And I yell, I preach, I scream, self-awareness. You got to know your stuff. You got to know how you're contributing to the challenges in your marriage. Let me go over all 8 again, and then I want y'all to let me know if y'all have any questions, okay? I'm on my husband's iPad, so you see me keep looking down. All right, so I think I can fix it. Hold on. I was about to say I was going to have to do it by memory. Okay, so #1 is self-awareness. #2 is a commitment to growth. #3 was reasonableness. #4 was accountability. #5, a willingness to prioritize the relationship. 6, the capacity to forgive an offense. 7 was to honor and respect your spouse. And #8 is building a healthy friendship. All right, y'all have any questions for me? Let me know if you have any questions. Even if the Facebook Live has ended, remember, you can come back at any time, ask me a question. I'll be right in the comment sections responding to it. Listen, if you haven't already, share this video on your page. Tell them that they got to check this out, that there's some tips in here, some strategies that you want them to know. Desiree, I'm so glad that this helped you. Also, don't miss our upcoming event on April 14th. I'm going to help you and your spouse build your marriage as a winning team. This is the #1 training that I do. People often, when they ask me to come and speak, they ask me to do this particular training. And you can join us for just $125, and that includes lunch. I'm telling you, your marriage is worth that investment. All right, guys, I am going to go ahead and stop now. Make sure you share this, keep commenting, and I'm just going to stay in here and I'm going to stay connected and answer any of your questions. All right. I so enjoyed our time together. I'll see you again soon. Bye.